Asterix and César's Surprise is the fourth animated film adaptation of the Asterix the Gaul comic book series. Released in 1985, the film combines two Asterix adventures, the Gladiator and the Legionary. The English dub shortened its original French title to simply Asterix vs. César, which 14 years later would become the title of the first live-action Asterix film. The film's production company was De Garde, owned by the same publishing company that had published the Asterix comics from 1961 until the series' co-creator Alberto Uderzo founded his own publishing company in 1979. Let's spot the differences between 1985's Astérix et la surprise de César and the two comics it was based on.
Let's start that patrol mask.
Sure thing.
Hey! Obelix, I didn't mean... All you had to do was stop him.
Well, they aren't moving.
The biggest change to the portion of the film that adapts the Gladiator comic is that it is not Cacophonix the Bard who is captured by the Romans and given as a gift to dictator Julius Caesar. Instead, Asterix and Obelix's exploits are in aid of rescuing Panacea and her fiancé, Tragicomix, who in the Legionary comic was drafted into the Roman army rather than abducted and forced to fight for his life in a Roman circus. To add insult, Cacophonix is barely even a background character in the film. By comparison, Obelix's tiny dog, Dogmatix, is 100% more prominent in this film than he is in the adapted comics, as the character did not yet exist in The Gladiator, and in The Legionary, Obelix told him to stay behind in the village, preventing him from chasing Asterix's gourd of magic potion down a drain, and returning it to our heroes just in time to save them from being chewed up by lions. Obelix is smitten by a beautiful young woman named Panacea, causing him to become more absent-minded than usual. In the adaptation, the super-strong simpleton at least puts the tree back in the ground, rather than just marching off in an embarrassed huff. Later, he accidentally uproots another tree, but in the comic, the tree he kicks down is actually Cacophonix's home.
Have you lost all your wits, Obelix? Having a good time pushing over trees while I'm up cutting mistletoe?
The druid Getfix is coated with buffoonishness that he neither has in the comics nor other films in this series, besides the one where a rock to the head turns him into a cackling maniac. In Asterix and César's Surprise, Getfix does the stock defying gravity until he realizes he is defying gravity, and accidentally pours a growth potion onto his foot. A new recruit is very keen to attack the Gaulish village, despite the warning from his centurion to do no such thing. The Legionary's design and personality is taken directly from the Asterix in Corsica comic, minus his red scarf.
Of all the lands conquered by our glorious Caesar, Gaul is the most troublesome. And of all the villages in Gaul, that one is the most terrifying.
Centurion Terminus is similar to Ignoramus from the comic Obelix and Co., who after one thumping good encounter with the invincible Gaul, hung up his armour and was content to leave the villagers alone. The Centurion was voiced by the film's writer, Pierre Chenia.
Alors n'attaque jamais les irréductibles Gaulois d'Écurion Superbus, imbécile.
The scriptwriter also wrote the previous two Asterix films, the next one, and the two Lucky Luke films, Daisy Town and The Ballad of the Daltons, based on the comics written by Asterix's other co-creator, René Goscinny. Pierre also played a centurion in the live-action version of Asterix and Cleopatra. In a scene where Obelix goes to pick flowers for Panacea, the Roman patrol, who were actually hiding from him, was replaced by Courting Disastrous, attempting to threaten Obelix.
Well, you wouldn't listen. You dumb dummy.
Obelix's courtship of Panacea is disrupted by the arrival of her fiancé Tragicomix. In Asterix the Legionary, Tragicomix does not appear until the final few pages of the comic. Instead, it is a postman who delivers the tragic news to Panacea that her husband-to-be has been forced to join the Roman army.
What's wrong with you, Obelix?
I'm afraid he's in love.
With Panacea? My poor Obelix, you haven't a chance with her. Drop the whole thing.
Courting Disastrous is desperate to prove his worth, and so, being a Decurion, orders a patrol to capture the two Gaulish lovers. As Dogmatix was still in the forest, perhaps because he was struggling to pick a tree to urinate against, he takes a torn piece of Panacea's dress to warn Asterix and Obelix she is in danger. In The Gladiator, Prefect Odious Asparagus wants to give Julius Caesar one of the rebel Gauls as a gift, thus the capture of Cacophonix. A little boy named Pick and Mix was the Dogmatix substitute.
Gauls! Onward to the rescue!
Terminus is furious and orders Courting Disastrous to take his prisoners to the furthest post of the Foreign Legion. The Foreign Legion was not a thing until the 19th century, and it doesn't help that they both pronounce whatever they are pronouncing differently.
Not all the way to Gaddafi!
That's right, to Kandari.
The reason the destination is Africa is that the comic takes place during the real-life war between Caesar and Scipio, the Battle of Thapsus. The centurion justifies his choice of sending Panacea and Tragicomix as far away as possible because he knows the Gauls will attack them for revenge, regardless whether he returns the prisoners to the village or not. This is rather illogical, as surely Asterix and co. would beat the Romans a little less senseless if they didn't have to travel thousands of miles to get the prisoners back. The guard at the Legionary recruitment headquarters seems to resemble the unnamed Optio from the Soothsayer comic, whose design was also reused and named Total Lapsus in the next film. Before punching the guard sky high, Asterix takes a swig of magic potion, which he doesn't do in the comic, implying he is strong enough without it.
I don't see how Asterix's way of being polite is any different from mine.
A minor change to the scene is that the scribe chiselling away is annoyed with Asterix for distracting him, as he has kicked down the door and is slapping the supervising legionary. But in the adaptation, he is a much older man and reacts appropriately, with fear rather than frustration.
Hold it there. Get in line, Tubby, like the rest.
Hey, Asterix! That Roman that you were so polite to just now is being very polite to me. Do you think I can be extra polite with him?
Sure you can.
There are 6 other men joining the Roman army on the same day Asterix and Obelix do, all with different nationalities. 2 Germans, a Greek, a Brit, a Belgian, and an Egyptian, who thinks he is signing up for a holiday camp. The adaptation removed one of the Germans, the Egyptian, and replaced the Greek with a Spaniard. It would have made more sense for the English dubbers to change selective employment tax's nationality, as the recurring joke that the Brit can't understand what the Roman is saying only works if we pretend he is as hard of hearing as Professor Calculus.
What did he say?
What did he say?
What did he say?
Quiet!
What did he say?
Q-U-I-E-T!
Quiet!
The French dubbers made an anglais faux pas, as they have the character ask what he says, which is grammatically incorrect.
What he says?
Qu'est-ce que tu dis?
What he says?
Qu'est-ce que tu dis?
Nefarious purpose and dubious status are replaced by gladiator trainer Insalubrious from Asterix the Gladiator. Insalubrious takes dubious status's name, and nefarious purpose still appears, but the sequence in which the new recruits are given a medical check and uniforms was not included into the film.
Defend yourself.
It's only a wooden sword.
I'll do what he says. We can't waste a lot of time on this nonsense.
Defend yourself.
As you say.
The disgusting food the new recruits are served to eat looked like very watery soup in the comic. In the adaptation, it looks like very lumpy slop.
Now listen, Cookie. Anytime we don't like the grub we get to eat, we'll come back and see you.
At a Roman fort somewhere in North Africa, Tragicomics and Panacea escape after the young woman defends herself when Centurion Rumpus harasses her in a sexual manner. The design of Centurion Platypus from Asterix and the Roman Agent was used for Rumpus, who does not behave so lecherously in the comic, but then with no female slave at his disposal, he perhaps just wasn't given the opportunity to do so. Extra bonus trivia, Platypus was a caricature of the actor Lino Ventura.
She's our Gaul girl.
A girl from Gaul. Ah! Lutece! Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta!
What's going on with you? What are you talking about?
Two notable mistakes in the English dub of this scene. Panacea is ordered to serve more beer, but the drink she pours is obviously red wine. Secondly, when the new recruits, including Asterix and Obelix, arrive at the fort, an exhausted, overweight legionary introduces them to Rumpus, who identifies him as dubious status, who he isn't.
Guards! Guards!
Are we still friends?
No, now we're enemies.
Aren't we Romans?
That's all over now. You can forget it.
Panacea and Tragicomics are saved from the desert by a passing gang of slave merchants. The unnamed leader resembles Joshua Benzedrin from Asterix and the Land of Black Gold. Only instead of being a minor protagonist, the man with the Muttley laugh is a minor antagonist. At the beginning of this film, Julius Caesar is being presented with gifts from all the provinces he has conquered, a task he has put upon Caius Flabius, the owner of a gladiator school, from Asterix the Gladiator.
Didn't you tell me that we've received presents from all our provinces? From everywhere?
Yes, Caesar, yes. Everywhere. Everywhere. Nearly.
30 minutes later, while searching for potential gladiators at a slave market, Flabius finds Tragicomics and Panacea, and buys them for free from Hassan bin Washed.
What's the situation on your income tax?
Oh, it will be a great honor if you will take them as a token of my undying gratitude and esteem, oh noble Roman.
No, I couldn't. Well, if you insist, I don't want to disappoint you.
Hassan bin Washed is based on Economic Crisis, a travelling merchant who appeared in two Asterix adventures, The Gladiator and Land of Black Gold.
You want information? That costs you a lot.
Obelix.
Uh-huh.
Oh, only 500. All right, 100. Oh, no charge this time.
Would you like just one more?
As he did to Cacophonics, Julius Caesar decides to throw Tragicomics and Panacea to the lions, though the reasoning is very different. The two lovers refuse to bow down to Caesar, and their insubordination is what cost them their lives, while the bard's death sentence is due to him having insufficient muscles to be a gladiator.
And now for something completely depressing.
At a Roman bath, Asterix is captured by henchmen of Caius Flabius, who wants to Shanghai the two Gauls into being gladiators. While Obelix demonstrates his great strength in both sources, only in the comic does Flabius see Asterix knock someone out, again without drinking his magic potion first. So the reason he says he wants Asterix too is because he thinks he is Obelix's trainer. A sudden storm floods the cellar Asterix has been locked in, almost drowning him, but he is saved by Obelix. Meanwhile, Dogmatix chases rats in a sewer. This very dramatic 5-minute sequence is the largest section of the 75-minute film that is not directly based on a moment from any of the, at the time, 27 comics.
Why don't you calm down?
I am calm!
So am I! Very calm!
When we last saw Dubious Status, he and Nefarious Purpose were both exhausted, and instead of being thrilled that he was probably never going to see Asterix or Obelix again, he moans about being homesick from Rome. And this is all the indication we are given as to why he either resigned or maybe even deserted from the army. Insalubrious resigning after his attempts to train our heroes results in a very bruised body is replaced with Dubious Status being so depressed that Obelix was able to knock out all the other gladiators he was training, he commits suicide. A very bored Brutus joins Caesar and Caius Flavius in the imperial box at the Colosseum. He doesn't appear in the film, nor does the chariot driver, who is too sick to drive, thus Asterix takes the reins. Two more characters whose designs were reused are the jailer and a slave who works at Caesar's palace, both from Asterix and the Laurel Wreath. The jailer also appeared in the previous film, The 12 Tasks of Asterix.
There's no problem.
That's what you think!
All you need is a Gaul to drive the chariot.
In the English dub, the guard doesn't question why the Gauls are out of their gladiator quarters. So here's an extract from the audiobook version.
What are you doing here? You should be locked up with the other gladiators. This is strictly against the rules. Oh, come on, be a sport, said Asterix. We wanted to see the games.
Hey, let go, idiot!
Anything you say?
The horses crunching into the stone wall was also not added to the adaptation. In the comic, Asterix and Obelix become friends with the gladiators, and so rather than fight each other to the death, in the arena the men play a game of answering questions without using the words yes, no, black or white, much to Caesar's fury. In the film, Obelix knocks out 5 gladiators without even trying. Tragicomics drinks up the magic potion, allowing him to beat up the big hungry cats. In the comic, Cacophonix frightened them away by singing.
For golden sign, my dear.
Caesar agrees to let the Gauls leave because, despite the indignity of the event, the spectators have enjoyed the show. In the adaptation, it makes no sense as to why he should be so generous, given the Gauls not only made a mockery of the event, but Obelix damages part of the Colosseum, a nod to the earthquake that collapsed part of the amphitheatre, which frightened away all the spectators. Of course, in both sources, even if permission for freedom was not granted by Caesar, it's not like that would have stopped them escaping back to Gaul anyway. Incidentally, the Colosseum was not built until a century after Caesar's murder.
Noble Caesar's generosity is infinite. Yes, well, nearly.
Caius Flavius's fate is he might be mauled to death by a lion unless somebody chooses to save him. In the Gladiator comic, he is forced to take the Gauls back to Amorica by rowing Economic Crisis's ship by himself.
I warned you, Caius. You too belong in the arena.
The comic ends with Asterix, Obelix and Tragicomics returning to the village, where Panacea and Dogmatix are especially delighted to see them. Panacea kisses Obelix, who faints, and Asterix. Obelix recovers in time for that night's banquet, while Asterix has perched himself on a tree branch, seemingly in a state of besotted ecstasy. The film ends with our heroes already back in the village, seated at the banquet table, with Chief Vital Statistics making a speech that nobody is listening to. Panacea doesn't kiss Obelix as he is preoccupied devouring roast boars, and instead of the kiss making him look happy, Asterix looks slightly depressed.
They were magnificent! All by himself, Obelix destroyed half the Colosseum!
Oh, it was only a kind of second-rate Colosseum.
Compared to all the other film versions of this series, it stands out for having the most emotional intensities that pluck at the viewer's heartstrings and stir up many goosebumps. It definitely forces you to care about the plight of the imprisoned Gauls as we watch them baking to death in the desert and awaiting their doom in a dungeon. An alternative way the two scenarios could have been connected is if Caius Flavius was directly responsible for the Gauls' capture. Courting Disastrous is the catalyst of the entire film, yet his punishment is rather weak. Obelix accidentally jams his helmet over his eyes, and unintentionally flips him out of the fort. He should have gotten at least one slap from Asterix.